redid a lot of it. So it's much better. I thought it was good, but you know.
She would probably be about 30 creamy worth. We almost bought a creamy machine and got so bad.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, right.
Yes, Josh and Carrie.
It all right.
What's the main reason why we had this meeting?
Yep.
They're here. I see a truck.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. I know everybody really tired. We're like, we gotta start going. I'm like, I don't want to. Did anybody here know Trish Davis? The 101-year-old we had in our town, she just passed.
No, when was that?
She just passed this weekend, but she lives up on 80 Pine Brook.
No
Yeah,
way.
you probably bumped into her. She's a British lady. She's awesome.
Should be here.
She had like pinkish gray hair, but she
Oh, yeah.
she had a lot of stories. She was actually, she kind of left some messages for people like, get back out there and join the community. And I was like, that's a good plan.
Oh.
Which is why we didn't watch it streaming. Like, you don't get to actually meet anybody.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
What item was you here for?
We're just here to hear about the ballot and just start getting more involved. You know, like somebody, there was a really great post, and I hope I'm not cutting into anything, but there's a really great post. They came up on Front Porch Forum and they're like, if you think your town has bad ideas and you don't go, they get their ideas from you going.
Yep.
And if you don't go, then they're like, I guess we do what Warren did because where are we getting the ideas from? So they're like, you gotta start going.
Well said.
All right.
Good for you. Good for you.
Well, thank you for being here. We would, you know, there aren't many people excited to work for government. So.
You're drafted.
Doesn't mean we're excited, we just do it.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Turned it on. You're 11.
No, Carrie must have stopped in the bathroom. So it should be
Fred missed some.
Fred.
Oh, I know Fred, yes. We've talked.
Elise, this is
Let me say, this just feels so different. Feels like it's kind of like a
chromosome
lifetime.
energy.
It's so much better.
It's my first meeting back for
Oh,
a while. I've been on maternity leave, so
It hasn't even been that long.
Oh, well, congratulations.
thank you.
And thank you for coming away from the families. That's gotta be hard.
Hello, Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi there.
Yep, 6:30.
Recording in progress.
Call the meeting to order. Any additions, removals, or modifications to the meeting agenda? It's a pretty small agenda tonight, so. Hearing none. Anybody here for a public forum? And that's the ability to address or comment on any issue that's not on the agenda.
I had one little thing I just wanted to talk about property use, but
Sure.
you know, pretty minor,
Sure,
just
go
about
ahead.
second home use and whatnot.
Go for it.
I was just.
You want to come up?
Sure.
That way the little microphone can catch you a little better.
I was just curious.
Josh, would you introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm Travis Napoli and I live on 80 Pine Brook Road, just down the road. And I've been here for about 20 years. So I was just curious if the town, and it's probably in the past meeting agenda, has ever considered a use permit similar to like Burlington and Stowe for second home ownership. So if you don't make it your primary residence in residential sectors where we have a problem with housing like downtown, we can basically say, well, we're going to start taxing you on the level where you move back into making a primary residence or you sell it. And the idea is that the state's already defended that 3 times. So it's been, the state's willing to take that legal fight on, and it's now just knocked out of court when the judges see it. The last 3 cases that were brought up, justice struck them. So I'm curious if we ever consider that for just primary residences like downtown.
I'm not sure I understand.
So it basically like Burlington and Stowe are having such a housing problem that they've said that if you rent your home, you have to actually make it your homestead. So you have to live here or pay income and state tax.
Is that for short-term rentals or for?
It's basically where downtown residence areas are. So you take residential sectors and you say, in these sectors, if you own housing, including grandfathered, you now have to pay, and the state allows a certain, I don't know the percentage, an increased tax to the point where you lose the profitability of short-term rental. And then it returns to being a homestead, which gives our town a little more income and property.
Last year, I can't remember what meeting, we referred the short-term rental issue to the planning commission. And they've been working on it very hard. From my perspective, it was long overdue to look at because the data shows that there has been a significant amount of housing loss. And we're looking forward to hearing their recommendations.
I'm not sure what the timeline is on that report, but I
Very
do know.
soon.
Yeah, I know that they had a subcommittee, short-term rental subcommittee meeting, I think today.
Yeah.
To,
I don't know if they're touching on taxation yet, but we'll see. I know people have talked about it.
And just to step back, I think historically, and you can correct me, the town planning has come kind of upwards from the planning commission, and then been discussed and approved at the select board level, essentially.
That makes
So
sense.
that's
And-
kind of how it's
yeah.
happening again.
From what I understand where they are in their process, I don't think there's gonna be any recommendations for taxation changes or regulation, but they are, I understand, following kind of Warren's direction of having a registry so we know what's going on and that there's, information for emergency service providers and whatnot. But I don't, so I guess the short answer is, I don't think, we haven't had any informed discussion along this lines.
Well, if it's possible in the future, I was wondering if we do like a public hearing where we hear about not only state level, but more advanced, like Spain had this massive issue where they ran out of housing.
Yeah.
And so the United States started looking at what they did and they found that if you re-permit and you say, this is for homesteads. And if you're not going to use a homestead, there are several tax plans in the United States and in Vermont and Burlington. They basically just tell them you don't get a choice. And so they get a certain period of time to sell, or they basically get an additional tax for every year that they don't repurpose the home. And then that forces a homestead. You can only have one homestead. That brings Vermont residency up. It kind of solves a lot of problems, increases tax base. The question is, does it outweigh the amount of revenue that's brought in from short-term rental? And that's hard because we have so many, like you said, emergency planning, road construction, all of these things. But right now we know that we keep increasing the tax base on residences and we don't have the money. We can't raise enough money to take care of our town and our school needs, which says that we need more permanent residences. And I think we hear that from the state. Bernie Sanders is out there really trying to drive a lot of tourism and get people to live here. And now we have a new tax where if you kind of leave the state and you're not keeping a residence here, they kind of hit you on the sale on the way out. And that just seems like it's headed the wrong direction. We're not looking to punish people for moving here or leaving here. We're trying to get people to stay here and understand that if you come here as a luxury, then we're going to have to charge you more because we need at least X amount of housing. And in the state, they're trying to say, let's not do that. Let's keep that business here because it's a built-in revenue stream that's working. And let's expand housing. And what we're seeing from the state and from the region in New England and New York is that what we're basically ending up is large developments that have not too pretty names associated with them. We see Ireland building those developments and forcing residents that would like the 1 acre lot and the family dream and like to live and serve here. They're forced into small community housing sections, and then the luxury of our town is given elsewhere. We get that model from Bernie Sanders, who also was like, let's keep the waterfront in Burlington for Burlington residents. So I would just like to see that brought up because it's worked. It's just started in Stowe. It's definitely working in Burlington for reclaiming the housing. Spain did it. They've taken back a big chunk of their city. So I wonder if we can carefully try something like that in little sectors at a time in the city.
My understanding what Burlington did is they allow short-term rentals, but only if it's an owner-occupied structure. So they allow the
That's
accessory
how
structure.
Providence.
Some of us like to leave in the winter. I get that. And when I leave, I don't rent my property, but it is very expensive to rent somewhere else now. So even if I go down to Florida with family, I'm always tempted to rent this place. And I'm like, I don't want short-term rentals. So then you get back into the state rewards 6-month and 3-month rentals.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just something to consider.
Well, I would suggest when the planning commission comes up with their report, they'll hold a hearing.
Sure.
And then they'll kind of finalize their report to us. And then we will, I don't know that we'll hold a formal hearing, but we'll certainly have it on the agenda and have a discussion about it.
Sure.
Yeah, I just reiterate what Brian said, that the real goal, because right now we don't know what the problem is. We have an idea of what the data is, but we don't know it great. And so to have I think the planning commission, don't quote me, this is somewhat of a phase one to gather data, to start some safety mechanisms so that then we can build upon it when we know more. And that's where I think, does that make sense?
I was just curious, what are they doing for data planning? Because looking at the Housing and Urban Development Authority numbers, we kind of already can see that we're in what they would call a housing crisis, like, you
I
know.
think there's no question about
no
that.
question.
Yeah, so it's like you have two basic logical options, which one are develop, which is expensive, or we have to basically give somebody, you know, less desirable land like floodplain land, and like, if you're willing to build that up 3 feet, the town will work with you to ease permitting and restrictions. We already see the state, like in Montpelier, has rolled restrictions back. I owned a construction company for 20 years. When I went back just to delegate with a friend, the fact that permitting went from being the strictest in the state to like, you build here? Like, okay. And so I don't think that's right either, because part of the ecological problems we're starting to have is developing where the development can't support. And I just think that it's, you know, a lot of this federal research has been done and our town doesn't have the resources, which is probably why we're waiting. And Burlington's been doing it. It's sort of been working, but they're not maybe up to snuff with enforcement. They also have much more legal funds, inability to work with Winooski. We, you know, Stowe's not going to help us foot a legal bill if we get sued, as much as we like.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the phase one data collection phase, but I think there's room for energy and organizing and new ideas. Like I was reading my VLCT summary that came out today, and the number one item was a poll that was done last week that basically surveyed, I'm not sure of the N number of Vermonters, but 83% of respondents say there's not enough housing, and 93% say the cost of renting or buying a home is a problem. It's by far the greatest problem on the minds of citizens of the state, and obviously I think probably it's a little more exacerbated in our community. So let's, you know, welcome the energy. And
Sure. And I think it's important people don't realize that towns don't own these vast tracts of unused land that are just sitting there. Everyone's like, why don't they just develop it? There's no place to develop. You have to buy land from somebody or take land from somebody, which isn't going to go over well. So I definitely look forward to hearing from it, and I appreciate you taking the
yeah,
time.
thanks.
And just for a little bit more background, I think our hope is that bringing on a wastewater system online in Irishville and Waitsfield Village will allow for the redevelopment of a lot of properties. And there are several property owners of, I think, what I consider undeveloped properties who are waiting for that to provide more housing.
Definitely.
And in conjunction with that, hopefully going in, you know, I think we'll want to have some mechanism in place to make sure all the new units that are built are not turned into Airbnbs. So
That's true.
I think that's on our minds for sure.
Sure. Well, thank you. I look forward to it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So the next item is a public informational hearing as required by 17 VSA section 2680H to explain and discuss the Australian ballot articles to be voted on at town meeting. Legal voters of the town of Waitsfield are hereby notified and warned that this informational hearing will be held on tonight, Monday, March 2, 2026. We also, after we briefly talk about our meeting schedule in the next few weeks, we'll be talking about tomorrow, nuts and bolts with our moderator. At least moderator until the first item of business tomorrow, and I expect you'll be the moderator after that as well.
At least we hope so.
Never know.
You know, I don't think there's ever been a battle for moderator. Any questions about town meeting tomorrow?
I was just curious. I was, you know, a lot of people, again, you know, don't realize that, you know, taxation isn't something the city has many options, or excuse me, village has any options for. We have like 3 things. And I don't think people understand educationally that a lot tax is one of the rare things we could say. We're not trying to punish residents. We're trying to tax alcohol, meal taxes. But at the same time, like Tricia said, you know, she was very active in our community at 100 years old. She saw a lot more than I did. She said, this community has gotten to the point where going out is too expensive for 80% of the community. So again, you know, looking at Bernie Sanders' business model of, it's nice not to have industry because we don't get as much pollution, but now we can't enjoy what we built and what we live in. And I think a lot tax, well, I understand it's one of the few things we can do easily and quickly raise revenue. It also punishes everybody, that 1% for going out. And part of the reason this room isn't full like it used to be back in the day is because the dollar draft night's gone, the $5 cheeseburger's gone. I mean, there used to be lines going down the street. So for me, I understand why we took the lot tax, and it might even be necessary, but I had to say no because I really want to see more people come out and replace more of those chairs where we see businesses. I don't know what the commerce rule is, like Stowe gets you to sign on that if you want to use the Stowe logos, you have to agree to the terms of their business, including when you open, when your hours are. We don't have that kind of pull here. And every time the tourists leave, everybody just completely shuts up. And then you don't have any ability to go out. The library is beautiful, but it hasn't had the pull that maybe it does in the past. And businesses outside of Lawson's that maybe draws the largest local crowd, we see it kind of coming back. It's almost like the 1980s again, where the town just went completely dry and bankrupt. And so I don't know, I'm confused about what the other options might have been around when they discussed the lot tax. Was there anything else that the town can do outside of that lot?
Great question.
Sorry.
I'll take that one,
Yeah.
and then if you want to go more generally. So yeah, Vermont is a Dillon rule state, which means that municipalities are not allowed to do anything creative that hasn't been explicitly allowed in statute by the legislature. So historically, for all of Waitsfield's history, we raised the bulk of our town budget from municipal property taxes. There's a little bit that come from grants we're able to get and dog licenses, and you'll know better the other little pieces, but I think in this packet, it's 84% property tax, and there's no room in those other categories to raise significant more revenue. So the question is, if we do need more revenue for infrastructure that will help drive those changes that you're talking about, right? I think when we go out to eat, the big cost drivers are, it costs, I don't know how many dollars an hour to employ someone here that has to drive from Waterbury or Montpelier or, Essex. It takes a lot to attract those people, and the business costs and rent costs are a big driver of that. So to invest in infrastructure that helps to address those things, what are the options? And I think the options are raise property tax revenue from only Waitsfield residents and property owners, or consider this other tool that the legislature passed in 1999, which is a 1% addition onto these categories of sales, rooms, meals, and alcoholic beverages. And pass it over to Brian to kind of.
No, that explains it. There's not that many options, and it is one of the taxes that allows people who use the infrastructure but don't pay property tax to contribute towards the cost of that.
And do people maybe understand that, I don't know if it's even, I assume it's legal, but if you want to do privately raised funds and basically donate them to the city or gift them, I assume, because it's a city, you have to give to the village or whatnot. It's possible, but those initiatives have, they have to be done in a certain way and handed over. But that's something I think people forget, is when you have those mitigated tax structures, you can still work around it. I'm not saying a cookie sale is going to buy you an international plow truck for the city that costs $800,000, but it definitely, those contingency funds where we're trying to raise so that we can make bigger purchases, having secondary, which I'm sure the Rotary and whatnot, those groups already helping as much as they can, but probably a lot of citizens don't realize that you can most likely start and help GoFundMe's, contribute to different funds. And I don't know if that's something that's considered a tax credit or write-off.
Actually, we do that for the White House.
Yeah.
We have a place on the website where they can donate to the website, to the general White House.
See, I would have never, it's not that the information's not there, it's just, today we're so distracted. With the news this morning, maybe we're not looking at it, but I don't think a lot of people know,
Yeah, we
most of
probably
us-
should do a better job of advertising that. But
Well,
if
We
people
did
are
receive
interested,
a couple of years ago a $40,000 anonymous donation for White House maintenance, which was appreciated.
And that's the thing, we all donate, but but maybe we should take care of our first community so that when we say, hey, we don't have to raise the taxes because everybody who could chip in did. and that was enough to make the difference. I mean, like you said, if I heard like, $40,000, I assume that was like maybe an estate. Like our neighbor Trisha left $5,000 to the program, freewheeling, which part of that's a huge help for seniors. Otherwise, Vermont, it's really hard to get around here in the winter. So, well, thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments about the town meeting? Carrie?
I'm Carrie Dolan, town of Waitsfield. Really interesting questions you bring up. I think one of the struggles has always been, how do we take advantage of one-time funding to pay for one-time uses? And in this situation, when you have aging infrastructure, so we're really talking about long-term needs. It's really difficult to rely on one-time funding for that. And I think this is why they're looking at these alternative funding sources.
And it's hard to your point, like, Sugarbush is basically benefiting, I believe. I looked at the whole tax reward, and a lot of the traffic comes through here. We receive, Huron's is busier than it's ever been. And we get that, but it's still not generating enough tax for the state or the city to keep up with road infrastructures. Quite frankly, in 20 years, the worst I've ever seen it. We've had increased flooding, which obviously is part of that. But I can tell you the wear and tear of the insane amounts of traffic and the trash and everything that's left here. How do we benefit? Does the state cover enough of the resort fee tax to hit them? Are they just creating tax shelters like most resorts and then none of that money's hitting our community? Because Warren's got the same infrastructure issues, not maybe downtown, but around their general infrastructure, and Roxbury Gap's not getting any prettier. So, you don't see those initial buy-ins. Maybe you did, some of you guys are maybe a little older than me. Like back in the 80s and 70s, corporations were actually like, I'll just buy this whole road. Wynn injected, when he was a privately owned mountain, he injected a lot of private capital that he didn't have to on behalf of the city. I don't really see that unless they're doing it behind closed doors. I don't see that mountain really contributing the way it did. And it seems to cause a lot of headaches and problems while benefiting some people in the community. I don't know if you see the same thing living there as long.
I just wanted to, I won't speak to the Sugarbush piece, but I wanted to seize on the first part of your comment, which was town is packed, lots of cars, parking lots are jammed, businesses are jammed. How much money do you think the town budget gets from that activity?
60%.
We don't get $1.
No, you don't. I thought we had some, but.
Yeah, I guess we get the property taxes from the businesses that
We get
hopefully are doing well.
we get the property taxes from the healthy businesses, but of those transactions on a weekend, like 2 weekends ago on President's Day weekend, where you couldn't get a table to save your life, all that sales tax revenue and meals and rooms and alcohol is going to the state. And we have experienced just in the last year, if you look at the news, the transportation fund is running a deficit. They're not getting the full federal match. They didn't immediately come to paint our lines, and they've basically communicated that that's a difficulty for them going forward. And so I just wanted to seize on that part of it, which is to control what we can control and try to benefit from the local economy and all those visitors. That's what this article has in mind.
Yeah, I would love to see larger systemic changes. And I think that one can't ignore the fact that there are systemic things that need
100%.
to change. That is true. It is also true that we have these limited tools at our disposal. And I would hate to sacrifice the use of the tools that we do have while waiting for the perfect systemic change solution. I feel like I would love to see both, basically. Like, I'd love to see working towards systemic change while using the tools that we have. That's just sort of my 2 cents.
So do we not instill any VAT tax law tax right now on our meals? Do we have any?
Nothing.
Well, currently we have there is no local option tax. That's on the.
That's funny. I read it, and you know what I saw, even though it said, I think now that you said this, I read a 1% increase, and I was like, I can't take any more increases in my
Oh,
taxes.
I hear you.
Yeah,
And that,
It's a binary either 0 or by statute 1%.
But you know, civics and volunteering is down almost 90%, 70% Vermont, which is considered a national anomaly. And you know, that's the thing, we don't really understand how the city works. And we don't, you know, everyone thinks like they keep seeing these tax increases, but the state's taking it. And I don't think they understand block grants either. I didn't know that the money from this town is taken, redistributed in tax incentives for places like Stowe and Burlington because they're developing faster. And because they're getting more people who live here, the state's like, we need to invest in what works and the infrastructure that's working well, et cetera. And that kind of starts to block people out and create a competitive kind of town versus town scenario, which I know it was meant to do well. Maybe it is doing amazing things, but I don't think, again, anybody realized we aren't making any tax off of the tourism. Therefore, the lot tax is probably the best thing. So then the next question is, if you already filled out a mail-in ballot, but you haven't dropped it off, how do you change it?
If you haven't dropped it off, you don't need to, you can throw it away and go in and vote directly.
And if you did drop it off, I think we just put it in the box downstairs, or at least drop it. But see, I
That's good to
honestly-
know that that wasn't clear.
Yeah.
That's,
I think it's just you read it and you're so conditioned for these, 30% increases, 28%. I know a lot of people aren't differentiating, they don't, between city and state. I live in Vermont, I think of all my taxes, Vermont, and even when I laugh and people go, I'm so angry at Vermont taxes, I go, you should see your federal taxes. You're committing a lot more to that, and they don't, you just don't think about it. But that's the truth is right now, if we could have said that, this is how much projected revenue we would have lost if we didn't have this. And right now we make nothing off of tourism. Man, if it was put that way, I would have been like, oh my God, well, if they're gonna come here and I like traveling, can't be mad at them. It'd be nice if they left some
a
Waitsfield.
business succeeding or not succeeding has nothing to do with the income we bring in, as long as the property tax is paid.
But it would be if we had a lot.
But there's no
Well, it's a
incentivization for like that relationship between the town and businesses. Really, before it didn't matter. If the lot passes, I believe that then there is more of a symbiotic relationship between the town and the businesses as well.
Yeah, and you make a great point that the total tax burden that we all pay is experienced as a total. Like when you get your bill, there are line items, but there's a bottom line number that you pay the most attention to. And I think, in the article that we are voting on tomorrow, both VLCT and our lawyers and kind of common sense say we can't editorialize and have a long preamble
Oh, yeah.
where we say, did you know we don't make any money off of tourism, right? So our public hearings, our infrastructure summit, and tonight, and the letters to the editor that are flying around are hopefully driving some of that home. But I appreciate your point.
I mean, it's sad, but we get a lot of our civics from Front Porch Forum, and that can either be, a good ramble, or it can be a really great conversation. But again, I wish I had come to an early meeting because it would have been nice to be.
Are you planning on coming to a town meeting tomorrow?
We can't make the 9:30 because unfortunately, again, civics hasn't caught up. I know they can't fire me for not going, but
I'm gonna just make one more point, which I've made a couple of times. For next year, I believe a couple of years ago, Carrie, you might know what year it was, but Vermont made it mandatory for employers to give you unpaid time off if you give them 7 days advance notice, unless it's essential to the operation of the business. So
it's just the grinding halt of capitalism. Like everybody.
I got you.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, I'm going to town meeting. Nobody would say anything, but as soon as you left, it would be like.
I got you.
Do you have a town report?
Yes. that would
Okay.
be good. We just have to make time to. I think again, coming here, you just sit here and you feel questions, which a lot like getting a PhD, you guys are defending how you run the city. And I think that's gotta be intimidating and also maybe annoying. I'm sure you can do better things in your time, but I don't think, consider myself a fairly intelligent person and I read a lot of history. I didn't understand what the law tax was. And that's why I voted no, which now I wish I voted yes.
Well, it sounds like,
Not too late.
I was gonna say, it sounds like it's not too late.
You might have to Jimmy your box.
We can arrange that.
We know the town clerk.
So any other talk about tomorrow's meeting as part of the public hearing?
Yeah.
Why don't we move on to setting our select board meeting schedule for March and April? And I didn't realize, I think I missed something, that York had sent out a suggested revision. We normally meet on the second and fourth Mondays.
Yep.
You suggested
So-
not doing that. We have 5 Mondays in March,
Yep.
including tonight, which is an unusual meeting because it's the first Monday.
So because the 5 Mondays in March and because Easter Monday, and it's really hard to go to 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks because of paying our bills. What I'm recommending, and we can change it, is March 16th, March 30th, and then April 13th to set the next 3 meetings. We
And
can
the
do whatever.
13th would get us back onto the second, third,
That's
second,
correct.
fourth.
Yep. And then we're not having a 3-week break. Because if we were gonna go to the second and go, that would be next week, which, we just met tonight, and there'd be things for us to do, of course. Post-town meeting gets busy for the next couple of meetings. But this, again, the biggest thing is avoids Easter, and it keeps us on a 2-week schedule.
Is that okay with folks? And I will miss the meeting on the 30th, but if we had it on the 23rd, I would miss that as well.
And I am officially back. Well, I'm officially able to attend. I don't know if it will always be in person, but we are able to figure things out so that I can be here.
And that's better for you, Sean, right?
That's awesome. I think York designed this schedule, my vacation schedule.
I did before I even knew what it was.
I can make all of this.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
And again, I might miss the one in April. I actually don't know what my schedule is, but that's okay. We'll make it work.
Okay, that's good. So we'll move on to town meeting day planning. Carrie, you want to come up to the table? So you have reviewed the warning? We
Yes.
know about a couple of little glitches that we're gonna deal with.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned a couple of things.
One is, looking at the warning, we did not catch the fact that we were having an article to allocate possible revenues from a lot to a reserve fund that we haven't created yet.
Yeah.
So we are gonna need to shift Article 7 and Article 6.
Right.
How do you suggest we handle that?
I was thinking that after Article 1 of nominating and accepting and voting on the moderator, I was then planning on just sort of describing town meeting before we get into anything deep on the articles. But right after that discussion and before even going to Article 2 about hearing from the reports, I thought at that time, it's really, I don't think it's a problem if we go in this order. It's just a bit awkward because as you described. So what I could do is suspend rules and say if there are no objections, that we'd entertain a motion to take up Article 7 before Article 6 when we get there, and then take a second for that. If anyone wanted to add anything at that time, we could, but then just go right
That
to a
would be
vote.
great.
And it would be, as I mentioned, suspending Robert's Rules of Orders. And the way I would do it, as I would have described already in that discussion, with no objection. And in that way, it's by unanimous vote or 2/3. Typically, it will be a unanimous vote, but it requires a 2/3 majority.
Yeah.
But it'll be a
I won't
voice
the
vote.
objection to it, yeah.
yeah, so I don't imagine it would be. And if it doesn't, for some odd reason, it doesn't succeed, doesn't pass, we could still, it's just a bit awkward.
Well, if it didn't, in that case, maybe we would put forward a motion to say, amend Article 6 to say that 15% to the All Hazards Recovery Reserve Fund,
Assuming,
providing that it's adopted, in which case it's not adopted, we would allocate that amount to bridge and culverts or something like that.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. But we don't foresee any problem with what you just recommended, probably.
No, there won't be.
yeah, and in fact, the All Hazards Recovery Fund has been getting quite a bit of press time. I think the whole state is very interested in this kind of approach in recognition. I think you were quoted on NPR, VPR.
Were you?
What was that?
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's all over the news.
He was Fred was interviewed last week, Friday, maybe?
I'm getting caught up on the famous
Well-
interviews.
Would you want to use up the approach that you just described
I'd
as
rather
in
reverse.
case
I would
we
just
are,
say
for some reason?
do that as a plan B.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll be prepared to do, I mean, where would we want to do it? Take 5% and spread it around fire department, bridge and culvert, and
I put it to
pave
Bridge
it?
Culvert.
I do it to bridge and culvert, yeah.
I think you're the first.
Yeah.
There's a lot
We
going
know
on.
that's coming.
Most needed,
Yeah.
most needed.
Yeah. And then the second item, which is not an item, and I'm not sure if everybody knows this. Two of our local agreements for tax stabilization expire this year, and we were not aware of that when we put the article together. The tax stabilization for the ambulance service and for the couples club. So, and those are, I believe, Carrie, you would agree with our town attorney that there's no article that those are germane to,
Correct.
in which case it would take 2/3 of the voters to overturn, right?
No, it's statute, some
So
statute,
that's the
because it
problem, is
wouldn't
it's
have been
illegal to do
warned.
something that's not germane.
Yeah, so I would find it out of order if we had attempted to amend any of these articles to be able to accommodate that. And that's under
Yeah.
statute, and
Mhm.
that's not something that the town can supersede.
So I talked to Chach today when we were going through the budget presentation, and then touched base with Marissa about us holding a special town meeting in late April or May to just deal with those two items from the floor. It would be a select board meeting. We'd warn it 30 days in advance to do tax stabilization for couples club and the ambulance. Encourage the couples club and the ambulance to bring their people out to that meeting. We probably want to have it over at the meeting house. But yeah, it always is passed unanimously. I don't see any objection to it. So I think we should let folks know that that's our plan. That's happening.
That's the only option, right? So there's
No,
no-
there's other options.
Well, we could put it on a ballot item for the fall when we have an election. But it would be better if we did it before we set the tax rate. And we could still do it in November. We talked to Spencer and Mary Jane today about local agreements and kind of the impact on taxes. They said as long as we did it before the end of the calendar year, it would be okay as far as school taxes are concerned. But I would rather just
Before.
clear it up.
Yeah.
I think
Know
that
where
makes
we are
sense.
with the tax, yeah. And it's not, it's not, it won't be a special town meeting that has people at the polls from 7 to 7. It would just be a. evening.
Voice vote.
I'm seeing the first meeting in May, probably.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
We
and
And then
probably,
Gary, if you wanted to, well,
I always said that the moderator job was the best elected position in Vermont because it was one day a year of work, but.
That
you
would
might
make a
ask
liar
you-
of you, yeah.
Come to that meeting.
On the hook for two.
yeah, and we've had those articles, this specific article in the past.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just an oversight on behalf of the organizations in question here. And typically they
Maybe it
come,
was our fault, nobody brought it
well,
to
they
our attention.
typically have to come to you
Yeah.
to actually have it considered, so it just happens. Things fall through the cracks
Yeah.
sometimes.
So that's just,
Okay,
somebody might make a motion to amend though, so.
yeah, and although we would all want to support those initiatives, it's just something that we can't supersede state
Yep.
statute.
Yep.
Okay, and let's see.
Carrie, did you get the email today about Dara and Candace?
Oh, no,
I forwarded, they're gonna be there between 9 and 10.
okay. Well, we typically have them follow Article 2.
Yeah.
And I know I'm sensitive to the fact that sometimes they're trying to do the rounds, they're trying to meet address or attend as many
You're familiar with it.
town meetings, yeah, a little bit. And I've waited a long time a few times.
I
So,
made you
but
wait.
I, so 9 and 10.
I think doing it after Article 2, even if they're standing there, is fair.
Okay,
They said they're going to phase it after, so I don't know what their time, their meeting's probably way shorter than ours. but-
okay. So if that's okay with you, because it's still a bit of a wait, because we'll be describing what the process is for town meeting. And we have a number, as we've done in the past, we walk through those reports that are specific to our town.
It's your
No,
call.
yeah.
I used to tell the select board all the time that they don't even have to go to town meeting because it's the moderator.
Right? Yeah.
Don't, in fairness though, we want them to come. We
Yeah,
also want to
yeah, we
support
do.
them going to the other towns.
Right.
If they're coming to us first, that's awesome. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Is there a reason we would make them go after the town reports? Because that can take a while. There's
Yeah,
a
so-
dozen different reports.
It's not, I don't think it's that long. And I think it's better to start the meeting and let them come into it. But
Yeah.
I mean, you've been on there.
Yeah, I just know I've never been able to make all the towns because of, there's always there's a delay. If there's a delay in one town, it kind of ripples through the schedule, so. Okay,
And you have to, do you have to suspend Robert's rules at that point as well for Dara and Candace to address? folks?
oh, yeah, and that's
okay.
part of the beginning, since, well, Candace is a town resident, Dara isn't, so that's where I would be suspending rules to allow her to
Right.
speak. Same with York.
Yeah, so you-
Yes,
I'll be doing that with York as well.
I'm sorry I interrupted you,
Oh,
but
no.
I knew they were coming early, so
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that was.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for it and I'll do what I can. If it makes sense that they're right at the beginning, maybe we'll do it right after the moderator and
Yeah. Whatever.
okay. Thank you for that. Now, Article 4 is the budget, and I prepared a sheet for me to sort of help keep track of the math, but I typically would like to look over to someone who also will have a calculator working to make sure my numbers are right. So that would be.
Everyone's like this.
I can do that.
too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So that would be for the special articles, but as well as if there's any amendments to the budget.
And it's a pain because every special article adds to the bottom line and you need to keep track of that. So-
Right. Yeah, right. I just noticed that there's a typo on page 46 where it refers to total to be raised with fiscal year 25 budget. So just to want to flag that for next year.
Ah,
That's definitely my fault.
Yeah, no worries on that.
Good job, though.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Let's see. And we talked about the order. Now, I imagine in the past, we've had the tax stabilization article a number of times as well pertaining to the farms, the two farms. Occasionally, there have been questions about that. So I wanted to just flag that to make sure you're prepared in case there are any questions such as, it's minor, what does that mean? How much is that? How long has it been in place? And I think it's been in place since '86. So I just
That
wanted
sounds
to.
right. So yeah, I'll be prepared to explain why it's on there, why it's 1 year, what
Okay.
happened that we
Good.
skipped a year. And Josh is ready to explain what the impact on taxes will be.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to just mention, and I think, is that with the special appropriations, we have a town policy, and I imagine there's often been a number of questions that arise with the overall amount of special appropriations in our budget. So I just wanted to mention that too. Our policy has been to try to, as close as possible, keep that to 1% of total expenditures. So that too may come up. And I know you've done a great job trying to balance the demands and to keep as close to that 1% as possible.
And we talked about, again, as Josh and I, we were talking to the Potters about this local agreements. I don't consider the path in particular to
No,
be
that's more
special
like a
appropriation.
contract
It's like a contract, it's
Right.
1 year, it's a one-off, and
for development of infrastructure for town use. I agree. I don't see that as one, but adding the others in addition to our existing section of the budget where it talks about special appropriations. There'll be questions about the overall amount plus the, the equity, the fairness of that. So I wanted to just flag that. It's been a common topic of conversation in prior town meetings.
Yeah, I don't know if we do move forward with the new process next year, would that be something that you'd want to touch on if it does get raised?
The new
Yeah.
process.
That,
Our
well,
policy, you mean, the policy?
well,
yeah, I mean, it's an internal policy, it's not a binding restriction. We have agreed, though, that next year, we want to get ahead of the budget process and really take a hard look at all of the special appropriations and
Yeah.
whether they're still providing the services to Waitsfield residents that they represented they are.
And also the things that are for valley-wide services, if they're
Yeah.
also asking for assistance from other valley towns or.
Yeah,
We're
for
the only
example,
ones
I only
getting-
learned today that Hannah's House, which is a local organization that does good work, is not seeking support from other valley towns. So, maybe $1,500 from 3 towns would have been a better thing than $4,000 from our town, from just an equity standpoint. And I expect somebody might raise that.
Yeah, they're all important causes.
Yeah.
And just trying to be equitable and careful with the taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's it.
Anything else? or-
Know that Jennifer takes notes on motions and second motions. We're trying to keep track because sometimes it's hard to hear who made the motions.
Yes.
And so it's important for the meeting. So I'll be trying to be clear on having people, even though people that I may know, ask them to mention their names.
Well, I think on things like explaining to wanting to go from the collector delinquent taxes from 1 to 3 year terms, the budget, the lot, the ag stabilization, the all hazard recovery fund. It would be helpful if select board members made those motions and spoke first to them.
Oh, that would be
We'll
great.
try to do
Oh,
that.
terrific. Great. Can you repeat those again in particular?
The term for the collector delinquent taxes, the budget, the Article 6 and Article 7, and Article 8.
Great.
So,
yeah, and Jen would prefer not to talk about Article 3 if someone else is happy to. And I
Yeah,
I
that's-
think that's what I just heard you say. is that-
Yeah, that's an over-, we can explain that easily. And I think it's an important opportunity to give Jennifer credit for
Good cheers.
how short our list of delinquent taxpayers has become.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
It is.
Like literally, there's a few names.
It used to be a page and a half.
And other towns are still struggling with that. So I
And
think
just real quickly, many of us know that there's been some efforts to more visibly publicize town meeting this year, and do 2 things to hopefully encourage attendance. We took a survey from the PTA. One of those was free childcare. So that is, that sign up has been going out. And as of this morning, or this afternoon, there were 13 kids signed up. So that's good.
Can I ask
Um,
a question?
yeah.
Can people show up with a kid if they had not signed up?
Yes. Obviously if there's 40 walk-ins, that might be a problem, but they will use their judgment.
At least to get an initial order of magnitude of how many kids they're dealing with, having
Yeah,
to sign up. But
there's 2 staff members in a dedicated classroom. The other thing is, and this, I just wanted to check in with you, Carrie, because there will be coffee and tea and snacks somewhere. There's limited space, but if the table is kind of in the back right, to keep it away from or as if you're looking out from the stage, the back left, to keep it away from the
Voting.
voting, just to be aware that it'll be close to the non-resident area. And I just wanted to get your feedback on how far away or whether periodic reminders would be sufficient if it is back.
And right now it is in the non-resident voter.
Yeah, ideally, it'd be good to separate that too, because I would hate to have voters sitting down with the non-voters.
And
I think you
After
will need
getting
to
a
remind
snack.
people before
So,
a vote.
yeah, I was
to ask.
thinking
voters.
maybe just go get it and bring it back to your seat would be the ideal approach for people, but that's gonna be where it's stationed. So if you go back there, don't linger at the table.
Okay.
If
We have
it's
a little sign that's like free for residents, $2 non-residents.
and
Plus 1%.
go back to your seat.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if somebody might raise a concern about sending out the postcard and spending money on that. I think if that comes up, we're gonna wanna explain that we did go through this process to expand enrollment or involvement. And that the 3 things that came up were the timing and date, Tuesday morning was the popular one, but people wanted coffee and food, childcare, and better notice. And I think we did those 3 things.
Yeah, and it'll be a process. Last year, for the minutes, there were 113 voters. And I think our goal is just to get that increased as much as possible so that everyone can have a say. So,
I know, I'm excited to see the hundreds of people tomorrow.
Yeah. We got our postcards like today, I think.
Oh, let's
from the
see.
mail.
Yeah, I came in
They
today.
come out
Oh,
good?
really?
Yeah.
Skin
I got
out
mine
tight.
a couple days.
mine came in a couple days ago.
And I'll thank Spencer Potter for designing the postcard with the help of
Sparky.
Sparky. It said Spencer like 3 times. Sparky.
And Carrie, you are aware that we are gonna do a budget presentation before the
Yes.
article.
Yeah, got that. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or questions?
I have one. What's the number one thing you wish people helped you with in the community?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Throughout this process, what's the number one thing you could have used more help from the community? If you could ask the community for one thing. Put you on the spot.
Show up.
Yeah.
Show up.
Their
Engagement.
voice. Their
Hey,
voice.
1/100th of the population of Waitsfield showed up.
There you go.
1/100th of a percentage.
Show up and participate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, people have busy lives, but town meeting is the first example. I hope as many people who can come, and then, our infrastructure summit, was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
It was great to see the people that were there. It was about, in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
And, it's available online by MRV TV if people want to familiarize themselves at any point tonight or later. But yeah, just engaging and knowing, and, I hope tomorrow we can have a 30 seconds on just a reminder, here are the things that you can do to get involved if you want to. The different positions that are available, especially the ones that are vacant.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like there are always vacancies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vacancies.
Always.
What about public, we never see anybody come out and do public debates or forums anymore where someone in the public, instead of just an official's already got a lot of time tied up, comes on and says, I went to the meeting, this is what I understood, I brought the literature, there's copies all around town, this is the way I see it. Because a lot of people don't realize is I'm not held to any legal precedence of what I say, as long as I'm not just like.
You're referring to political campaigning?
Yeah, I mean, just more in the sense
for it.
that, I really wish, we all have ChatGPT and things like that now, so it's easier to understand some really difficult subjects in smaller chunks of time where we do less productive things, shall we say. So I do think that one thing I missed from when I was a kid is nobody talks about anything. We don't meet at the hardware store. We don't go out, Jay's Diner's gone, where do you go to meet and talk? And also, public debates aren't a thing anymore where people calmly and moderated take time to discuss what they see for the positives and negative effects of that. And it used to be something when I was a kid, when I grew up in Montpelier, they hosted them. The town would come out and say, we're just here to make sure you guys play nice, now talk. And, just keep, again, a moderator there to make sure that, there's no need to yell at everybody. You just don't see it anymore. And I wouldn't want to be in person around that, but I feel like it just needs to happen. People have to
Tomorrow.
talk about
A lot of,
Yeah.
And the Valley Reporter has, when there's contested elections, has done a pretty good job of doing debates or forums. And they really haven't done a lot of that around any of the items on this item, which maybe was too bad.
Can I just add to the sort of showing up? And I think the other thing that I would love is if in showing up, people also led with curiosity.
Yeah.
Because I think that it can be, I have observed folks jumping into conversations and swinging, like taking wide swings without a whole lot of contextual information or making broad assumptions or declarations that are just like not rooted in reality.
Yeah.
And so I would love in general for folks to lead with curiosity. That
And that's the idea of the debate, is it takes a lot of weight off of town meeting day. When you're dealing with a community that's more publicly educated, look at like Finland or Denmark or Norway, the leading democracies in the world, their civic understanding, they read 200 years more in history than the average American learned to read. So, we're only 250 years old. So the literacy levels aren't really as high as you think looking around the rest of the world. And people really don't understand things. I read a lot. I read world economics, all kinds of history. I had no idea what a law fee was. I made up this thing in my head. I read your paper and I was like, I don't want to give any money. What I just think I said was actually the law fee would benefit me, and the potholes that almost destroy my vehicle might disappear. The town might be able to plow more and have more salt budget. And I didn't understand that. And that's, I'm ashamed of it at the same time. We're all so distracted doing so many things. Like, you ask me a marketing question, I'll get right to the bottom of that.
I think your honesty is remarkable, and I, at least for myself, my biggest concern was that people wouldn't know, like, what is a lot? And so whether people are for or against, as long as they're informed, that's been, I think, our number one, desire. And I think we've really tried, and yet, look at, here we are. And so thanks for your honesty, and if you can share that story, I think it will benefit the community.
Well, big picture is to offer you $1 beer to come in and talk about it. That was years and years ago, but that's what we talked about with the state and a couple of businesses, and it was right when COVID hit. But it was interesting to see how many people just were like, Lawson's would be like, come take the place over. As long as everybody's buying a drink or a pretzel, what do I care? And then they give, a microphone in a place for people to talk, which again is just not something you can do while you're looking at a screen or through a camera.
But if I may, I do appreciate the select board holding a number of public meetings.
Yeah.
They're not considered necessarily debates, but they're a public dialogue with the community about an issue. In this case, it was infrastructure related to help sustain the economic engine of our community. And I think, and to have a conversation about that and to hear different viewpoints and to wrestle through some of those issues. And I think the frequency of having those meetings on the various topics that are impactful to all of us, I think has been terrific. And whether 30 people show up or 300, having our closed network television station in partnership with us to get that information out and to hear about those things, I think it's also at least brings that kind of dialogue to the living rooms of our community, and so that it ideally helps people become more informed.
Definitely.
Yeah, and go ahead.
No, in terms, I just wanted to shout out that MRV TV is live streaming town meeting tomorrow. And I think we're the only community in the valley that's doing that, but I'm really excited that we're increasing transparency.
And you know, Robert's rules was amended a few years ago to allow for remote participation
Yeah.
in town meetings.
What?
We haven't gotten
really?
there yet. It is possible.
Really?
Yes.
But not voting.
Yeah, Middlesex did it. Somebody, Zoomed or Skyped in from Afghanistan.
And I just wanted to kind of flip your observation on that. It's had, we can do more, but I think we are very lucky in that most communities, certainly in this country, don't have a time when they all get together, at least an official time. And I think we have a very high number of kind of nonprofit and civic groups and interest associations. And, you know, I've appreciated the amount of times that I've gotten face to face with people here more than elsewhere. So
Well, that's Vermont, right? That's
I think that's the idea.
I mean, I've worked with quite a few communities the same size as this town with a lot more town capacity than here. And here is like rocking it because of volunteers. I mean, it's remarkable what this town does with such few town staff.
And also lucky to have a local paper in a community this size. That's reasonably rare in other places in America.
I just wish we would talk about it more, because really, like, this is helpful. But again, you have 1/100th of a percent here, and maybe some people are watching. But I think when you add a public business or a community like, you know, Kenyans or, you know, Lawson's, which is new to the community, but definitely has hosted a lot of events for private and public measure. What it does is it takes the pressure a little bit off of you. People can come, get educated, and then go and talk privately, where they can literally break off and have 1 or 2 person chats, and you just don't see that. I don't feel it as much. And now when you bring up politics, even local politics, people tend to go, let's not do that. And it makes it impossible to talk. And this is a nice place, but if we had it right, and, you know, 1,800 people happen to show up tonight, maybe we couldn't all have time to talk, because that would mean we wouldn't get to eat.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank
Thank you, Carrie.
Carrie.
See you right on our way. See you tomorrow.
Josh, do you want me to pull up?
We're all set on tomorrow
yeah,
then?
sure.
Do we want to do chocolate?
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Do you want to walk through what we're looking at as our budget presentations?
Yeah.
Is that still, do we want to maybe just kind of go through it?
Yeah.
Oops.
Cool. So, similar to last year, we have 15-ish slides. That is consistent with last year, longer than years prior. And I felt last year was good that we went into a little more detail, explained the different elements of the budget and how it works and how we come up with your property tax rate and all that. So essentially planning to do the same thing this year. I would plan to start with a couple of basic reminders. One around the tax periods we're talking about, like fiscal year 27. You know, our year starts July 1st and ends June 30th. So we're talking about a budget year that starts next July. And I would also talk about the reminder that this is just the municipal portion of your tax bill. There's a separate component, the education portion, that is voted on by Australian ballot at the meeting. But we're only talking about the municipal portion. Thanks, Carrie. Then I think give a quick overview, like we're going to cover the expenses and the revenue and the tax rate, the capital reserves, et cetera. And then go into the actual slides. So there'd be a quick intro into the slides. This is the first one, the next one. And this is meant to, if you have to leave to go to work and you're only going to see one slide, the first and last slide are meant to kind of give you the highlights, which is that your the overall expense budget proposed for fiscal year 27 of 2.9 million, up 77 grand or 2.8%. We're gonna pay for that, mostly with property taxes, 77% or so of property taxes, the other from other sources of revenue, state and local grants, reimbursements, fees, etc. So let's see, estimated property tax rate, that should go down to 60 cents rounded. And just like the expenses are up 2.8%, so is the property tax rate. We do have data later we'll get to that shows the history of the property tax rate, and that over the last 4 years, the average has been 3.1%, so in line with inflation, which is good. Reserves up in line with the budget. Debt service continuing to drop as a percentage of the total expenses. Reiteration of the goals that we're trying to achieve as a town in preparing the budget. First and foremost, affordability. Your timing and comments earlier right on money. Like it's an issue for just about everybody, and we are trying to do our part by keeping budgets in line with inflation. Continue to improve the town's sustainability and resiliency. To me, that means continuing to provide a high level of service to the residents of the town and our visitors, and whether that is physical infrastructure, like not having potholes in every road, but having fire, public safety, roads that work, and resiliency would be more around impact of flooding, ice storms, et cetera, being able to have the reserve funds to be able to cover those without putting the town in a fiscal crisis. And lastly, maintenance of our infrastructure, most of which was built in the 60s and 70s and is aging, and we need a short-term and long-term plan for its maintenance and upgrade and replacement. Quick look back at the budget trend over the last 5 years. The slope of that kind of curve is pretty shallow, which is a good thing that our budget has not been increasing at a crazy rate. The 23 and 24 numbers reflect post-COVID inflationary period where we were, inflation rates averaged something like 8 or 9% in that time period. That was clearly impacting our budget. But since then, as that's hasn't gone away, but it's come down, our budgets have come down, or the rate of increase in our budgets has come down as well. One point at the bottom, and this is different than what's in the town report. These are the budgeted numbers, budgeted expenses approved by voters at the 23 and 24 and 25 meetings, not the actual that we spent. And our actual spending in a couple of those early years was less than what the voters approved. Part of that is staffing issues. Like there was a year or so where we didn't have a town administrator. We had budgeted for one, but we didn't have that expense, both wages and benefits and all that.
Also, one year we budgeted for another staff position that we never hired, so.
Yep. Correct.
Can I ask a question? So the percent increase,
Mhm.
the little orange box.
Yeah, if I were a better grapher, the orange box is so small, you can see the percentages on there,
Okay.
but it's just,
Okay, but that's what that corresponds to. All right.
yes, compared to 2.9 million, 2.8%, the
Got
box disappears,
Got
And the other part of just financial
the
management,
bar disappears.
every year we've ended in the black, right?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
So we've never run a budget deficit. We've run a small surplus, except for 1 year we had a larger surplus.
Yeah, every year that's presented here, I don't pretend to know the history
Yeah,
going way back, but
That's what,
Yeah.
these years we finished every year in the black.
Yeah. that's correct.
I don't mean to interrupt, but being a data analyst is what I do for a living. The only thing we're really missing that'd be crucial to any mathematician is where's the population of the town related to the expense of the town related to the percent increase? Because a lot of people don't realize we had these huge fluctuations of population, and now the towns are returning to post-COVID numbers where everyone came and bought everything up and apparently didn't like it or places to go. And I think if they could see those relationships, you know, and we haven't had a census since 2020. I mean, I know we know from our tax percentage what we have for housing here,
Mhm.
but you know, again, it's I think our population listed is 1,844, which I don't think people realize how small Waitsfield is. They think of Eversville and everybody is being one town, and it's not. So we have a lot of.
I just wanted to jump in quickly. Yeah, the census is the only official thing that gets done. We do have voter registrations, which I'm not sure have been tracked, but I wanted to shout out the Mad River Valley Planning District, which if you aren't familiar with it, is a municipal organization that based in Warren, Waitsfield, and Sugarbush contribute to, and the Chamber of Commerce is also a voting member of. And they do a data report every year, which uses some other sources to estimate trends in the community. And I encourage you to go check that out. We did a first run through of it at our last meeting, and it'll be finalized in coming weeks. And they will be coming and doing a full presentation to the select board.
Yeah, if you want data, they're my go-to for data in general.
Lots of data.
Just the reports, the only thing you're gonna find is when you bring, humans can't imagine a number like 1 million, they don't, they just think it's like this limitless thing. They don't realize that, you know, when we say that, it's only $150 to provide every service the town does per person. Roughly, if we go on 2020 population, which I'm sure we increase, which means if we only have $100 per person and people are like, we need to cut our town budget, like, do you like having a fire truck? Like, that's not possible. And I think without being able to visualize the population, you lose the ability to do quick math and say, well, that only leaves X amount per person. And then it also takes the story away from telling somebody, you know, when you look at this, you're not contributing enough to make this work. And secondly, just look at the population that we're dealing with. And since that number is missing, all that's left for the users look at that really big number and go, oh, that's no good, I gotta drop that. Similar to how you put an explanation for why there were such big jumps there. You know, it might help a lot to be able to, people to understand how they divide that by population and understand that we don't have that much money.
Yeah, one of the things we focus on more, and will come up later in the presentation, is the grand list value, which is based on the number of properties in town. So population actually hasn't changed a ton. You would have thought by what you read in the paper that it's gone up a ton. Everybody moved here during COVID, but honestly, wasn't some increase, but not huge.
Unless they said they all left.
Yeah. For us, the source of our source of our revenue has primarily been property taxes. So that, the more people that build houses here, the bigger tax base we have, and the more we can spread. We can spread the expense across a broader pool of properties. That kind of moves the needle for us.
Makes it easier.
And that has been going up and going up more than we usually conservatively estimate the grand list value of all the properties in town, and the actual number usually comes in higher, which means our tax rate's a little lower than what we present. So
And
that
actually,
that
last
trend's
year-
been positive.
Last year, our tax rate was gonna go up a little bit, and then in reality, because the grand list grew more, our taxes went down for the first time last year.
Yeah.
The municipal tax.
I'll say, I looked at the budget, it was a nice job balancing it off through all the turbulence.
Yeah, so even though the top line budget number went up, if there's more property value to spread that across, the rate that each of us pays goes down.
And nobody's buying a car now with a 1 month salary like our grandparents, so things are cheaper.
True. If you hit the next quick overview, the numbers will be on the next page, but just looking visually, like where do your tax dollars go? That's something that I would want to elevate the understanding of the residents of the town. Like, what am I actually paying for? A lot of folks, I think, don't know that. And here's a simple graphic representation. This slide is more the hard boring numbers, same categories, but showing the dollar amounts. The takeaway point for me here is the percentage change in some of those categories where road department, fire department, for example, when we were in the inflationary period post-COVID, you were seeing 10% increases year over year in those numbers, and those have come kind of back down to earth. Seeing a 2.5% increase for the road department, we haven't seen that ever since I've been on the select board over the last 5 years. That's awesome to me. I think when that team is really well managed and operating really efficiently, but also their materials costs, tires, all that stuff hasn't come down in price, but the rate of increase is lower than it was over the past years. The next, this is calling out, some specific new and notable budget items that contribute to the roughly $80,000 increase. And half of it is in two new line items at the top. Cybersecurity, which Brian wrote about in the select board report, where we were a victim of cyber fraud. Fortunately, we were able to recover the vast majority, everything but our deductible, through our insurance provider. And we have since are in process of upping our game by engaging a new cybersecurity firm. But that's a significant part of the increase in our budget, 15 grand. The other is our ambulance service. Their service provider that provided the dispatch service discontinued that service. So they had to go find a new service that is at a much higher price. That 24 grand is our share, our town's share. Other towns that the Mervis serves are also contributing towards that new higher expense. But for us, that's a huge chunk of our budget. Again, just those two line items leading to 51% of the increase. Most of the rest of the increase, 43%, is down below. Other notable items down there, wages and benefits. For the first time, again, since I've been on the select board, that number is actually down. That's remarkable. Our wages actually went up in line with inflation, but our benefits costs came down through a shift to essentially a self-insured captive insurance offering. So that is awesome. Again, other town expenses, other road department expenses, all at or less than inflation. Other dues, we did see some increase in dues from the planning district, which provides a really valuable service to the town. It's been instrumental in wastewater, for example, among other things. From Washington County tax, and there was one other increase that I'll brush up on before tomorrow. Trying to remember. No. it was
And
one
the
of other-
MREVPD, essentially the entire increase is due to an audit that's being planned.
Mhm, okay.
So
Like, is it pretty?
other costs are relatively flat.
Cool. And then we did increase our reserve contributions to deal with emerald ash borer, which has, I think, been confirmed to be in our community.
There's the library.
At the library.
The library was 4% increase.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
other one.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
No, at Ashford is the library. That's.
I was like, what? It's at the library. Oh my God. So we have increased reserves both to deal with, unfortunately, removing some trees that are impacted and replacing them as well. Reserve transfers, that is a big chunk of our budget, almost 20% of our budget, 535,000 scheduled this year. And you can see that the lion's share of that, 3/4 roughly is going, 70% roughly going to the road department, a mix of paving, roads, bridges, culverts, and vehicles. Let's see, whatever smaller amount to the fire department. We'll get into some specifics on how that money is being spent on the next slide. So if we're putting 535 in to reserves, how much are we taking out? Interestingly, we're spending from our reserve accounts $935,000. So there's a $400,000 gap. We're taking out 400 grand more than we're putting in. What are we spending that money on? Again, vast majority of it, the fire department and road department, fire department and green at the top. Vast majority of that is a new pump truck engine number 5. That is our portion of that budget. That's shared with Basin. So we pay 60%, they pay 40%. And the road department, again, Jocelyn Hill paving is a big one on the agenda for next summer. Common road culvert replacement.
This summer.
Yeah, next summer, meaning like 4 months from now.
Yeah.
Et cetera. The key point at the bottom are, we expect to, after putting in 500, taking out 900, we're going to end with reserve funds of about $1.6 million. Fortunately, we're not going to see that same gap of taking out more than we put in future years. Our average investment we can see coming up in years 28 to 30 is more like 400 grand, so significantly less. And that is, again, for fire equipment, road equipment, other reserves. That does not include major infrastructure upgrades, which we'll get to in a second, like replacing the town garage. That's not included in these numbers. Quick look at our debt service, which is stable for the last couple of years in the $187,000 range. Down from over $400,000 in 2020 timeframe. So that's come down dramatically, and it's going to go down dramatically again next year when we retire a couple of other pieces of debt. That puts us well below our target is to have our debt service less than 10% of our total expenses. We're going to be less than half of that. Close to half of that this coming year, fiscal year 27, but then less than half of that in fiscal year 28. That's a good thing because we are actively planning for a town garage, new town garage, that we will have to bond. That may cost, we don't have a number yet, but that could be in the $4 or $5 million range. And obviously, if our total reserve balance is 1.6, we're not going to be able to pay for that out of reserves. We're going to need to borrow. So the fact that we're reducing our borrowing expense today is giving us more room for that future borrowing tomorrow. The next, now we're going to shift from the expenses to the revenue side. How do we pay for the $2.9 million we plan to spend in next year's budget? Most of that, 83%, is going to come from property taxes. No change from recent history. The other roughly $500,000 or 17% is some coming from state and local reimbursements. We get some road grants. We get reimbursement for the current use program. We get reimbursement from Basin for some of our fire department expenses. That's all in that top 226 grand.
Pilot fund, right?
Pilot fund's small, but
Yeah.
there.
I would bet you that 80 or more percent of that is based in fire department current use. I mean, current use is about 150,000.
137 grand, yeah. Road grants, town fees, and interest income. That's permit fees, delinquent tax charges, interest income on the cash that we have in those reserve accounts. And then actually Facetin's down in fire safety. Sorry, the Facetin contribution to the fire department is down there. Hit the next. And finally, we get to how all that sugars off to your municipal property tax rate. So you can see at the top the 2.9 million proposed expense budget, 500,000 roughly coming from other sources of revenue that we just looked at on the last slide. That leaves 2.4 million roughly to be raised by property taxes. Divide that by the estimated grand list, and that yields 60 cents rounded, 60-cent property tax rate. We add a little bit for the local agreement rate that I think we would have already talked about or not.
No.
We wouldn't have
We
already
would
talked
have
about
that,
it.
yeah.
Okay, So I can leave something in there to explain what that is, and then you can expand upon it when we get to the article. But that leaves us with the tax rate rounded to 60 cents versus last year at 58 and change, 2.8% increase. Again, less than the rate of inflation. And this is a history of our tax rates over the last 5 years. And you can see it particularly over the last, this proposed coming year, fiscal year 27, the last 3 years, the rate of increase has been very modest, which I think, frankly, we should be proud of as a town that we are trying to do our part. We realize the challenges in the broader national economy, the higher rate of inflation, less funds coming from the state, that's impacting everybody. I think the point is here, we're trying to do our part by keeping our taxes affordable. The increase this year, 2.8% translates in down at the bottom into, pick the middle column, $300,000 home would be an annual increase of $50, monthly difference of $4. It ain't nothing, but it's at least less than the broader rate of inflation we've experienced in Vermont and nationwide. Special appropriations requests. These will obviously be voted on and are in the town report. But I do want to share the potential impact if all those were adopted would be another $30,000, $29,000, another 1% increase in our proposed budget, bringing the total increase from 2.8% up to 3.8%. Honestly, wouldn't want to get into the specifics of each one of those, but just want to share what that impact would be. And then we'll have a chance to talk through each one when we vote on them. And then looking ahead to the future pending infrastructure needs, I'll probably reference the summit we had a couple of weeks ago, where all this was discussed, and most of these points are kind of cribbed from that presentation, that are aging critical infrastructure needs repair or replacement, listed probably in order of priority: town garage, covered bridge, Meadow Road Bridge, fire station. We don't have firm costs on those. Town garage, the initial preliminary design process is underway. We're getting estimates on covered bridge, Road Meadow Bridge, but that's likely to be more than $10 million in aggregate. Again, put that in context of our $2.8 million expense budget. Like, wow, that's a lot of money. It doesn't all happen tomorrow, but that's a lot of money. In addition to fixing our existing infrastructure, we do want to look at new infrastructure for growth and for resiliency. So village wastewater, I would put in that category. That facilitates development of our downtown areas, allows for the housing we were talking about earlier. Culvert upgrades, emergency reserve funds for flooding and other hazards. That's likely to be another $10 million. Again, not all tomorrow, but when you aggregate all this stuff, potentially $20 million of infrastructure needs over the next, call it 5 to 10 years. Those costs exceed our current sources of revenue. We're not getting a lot of federal and state grants. We're getting some, but that is, that pool of capital is dwindling. Our reserve balances, as you just saw in the prior slide, aren't enough. We could not add enough reserves on the back of the taxpayer to get to the $10-20 million we're going to need. So our best available alternative is the local option tax, which, if you hit the next slide, would be a kind of a permanent annual source of revenue to the town. What is it? Many people already know this, but that 1% additional tax added to the 3 existing state sales tax categories below: retail and online, meals and alcohol, and lodging. It's adding 1% on top of the existing state sales tax. And as noted at the bottom, everyday essentials like groceries and gases are exempt. And then additional background information, again, I'll pulled from the infrastructure summit, that we are in some ways late to this party. 38 other towns covering more than half the population of the state have already adopted lots. Includes most of the regional shopping centers all around us in Burlington, Essex, Williston, Middlebury, Waterbury, Barry, Berlin, etc., Montpelier. We would project that 1% tax, the portion that we would retain, some goes to the state, and 75% comes to us, would be $600,000 annually. We do project that 82% of that would be paid by visitors to our town. That would be both our neighbors in Bayston and Warren and Moortown, for example, but also our tourist visitors that come to enjoy the amazing skiing this weekend, for example. To your point earlier, like if for every dollar we put in, we get a match from our visitors of $4. That's a lot more affordable, essentially, for our local property tax payers, local residents, than putting it all in the property tax. What would the tax look like per resident? About $86 a year. What would it look like for you as an individual making a purchase at a hardware store or at a bar or brewery or going out to dinner? There's the numbers. And finally, just that is reducing the burden on our property taxes and allowing us to stabilize our property tax rate. And a bunch of takeaways that I'm tired of talking. You can read. Promise I won't do that tomorrow.
I'm done. That's
No,
fine. You're
no
fine.
skipping it.
We've seen it.
Yeah, York, skip as well. Thank you, York, for
Huzzah.
putting the lion's share of the work into that
Well,
presentation.
thanks for making it better.
I like the owl at the end. Makes me happy.
I thought it was pretty good too.
It's
I-
bringing
Yeah,
curiosity.
the pictures were
It is.
great.
It is leading with curiosity.
Put a
there.
bird on it. Or call her. Did you say you like the call
I
bird?
like to go.
You don't like my bird?
Bird's fine.
The culvert is compelling.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys.
So anything else that we need to? So I guess,
See you all in a few hours.
so I'll talk about,
Oh, we need to-
I
I know,
will
I'm kidding.
Consent agenda.
handle, so
Sorry to be.
you're gonna kick off the budget conversation with this.
And that would just for positioning, that would be after all the town reports.
Yes.
But before the rest of the articles, like before we vote on
Yeah,
the
so
budget,
it's,
obviously.
it's after, the drunken tax collector article, which will be pretty straightforward, and I'd be glad to address that, and then this, and then the painful process that Carrie has to go through about the quarterly tax payments. And state that article 3 times. And then we get to,
Oh, that one's actually
that's after the budget.
after the budget.
So or is it between Articles 3 and 4 that the budget presentation
Yeah.
happens? Okay.
Sounds like
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
And then we'll hopefully change 7 and 6. Fred, do you want to talk about 7?
Sure.
I'd be glad to talk about 6 and the ag stuff. And I'm just expecting for all the special articles, somebody's gonna be there. And I know somebody's gonna be there for Hannah's house.
I don't know about House of Central Vermont, but I
I
know
don't either.
Dan's house will have somebody.
And I'm sure someone will be there from the past, so I don't think we don't own those, that
Mhm.
somebody else has to make the case. And we'll just see how the questions are. It's funny, JB's, I don't know who saw his text about smelling democracy while setting up the cafeteria.
He was actually pretty funny because we were doing it together to help Jennifer. It's very fun. Jamie makes everything fun.
You make zoning fun, that's a hard.
Yeah.
Easy.
That's a heavy lift, yeah.
Anything else? Want to move on to the consent agenda? I was not ready to say let's go home, but now we have some more business. Motion on the consent agenda? Unless, are we all done on town meeting?
Until tomorrow.
Yeah, wish we were done. A motion on the consent agenda.
I move to pass the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I,
And then, anything else to add to the town administrator's report?
I don't think so. I think it's all pretty self-explanatory.
We're still waiting to hear back from engineers on Centerface and Old Centerface and then Meadow Road, right?
Well, I recommended changes to the engineering, to the contract for the 2 FEMA culverts, and that took a while for them to sort out. I hope they have a stronger contract now to share with other municipalities. So that probably backs up about a week, but as far as I know, they're all happening, the Meadow Road Bridge and 2 culverts. And, there's been talk about the Common Road culvert that is gonna go in. That's gonna be taking a culvert from one of these 2 FEMA projects. So hopefully this FEMA project will move along so that that culvert will be available for Common Road this summer. If not, then that's where we're at. But, really good work. It's moving forward for those projects.
And we're still expecting covered bridge reconstruction this spring.
We're hoping for, it's gonna take 2 to 4 weeks, so we're gonna schedule for the covered bridge to be closed for 4 weeks this summer. Hoping to do like mid-May to mid-June so that this, basically the end of the school season. So that's gonna be a really big deal.
It's
Yeah.
really important to avoid the marathon,
When is the marathon?
like
July.
usually early
That's-
July.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie Goodman was like, great, as long as it's not in the summer.
Yeah.
Checking with the marathon and the stage race.
the
right?
Green Mountain Stage Race is.
That's September.
That's I was gonna say that's
So that
fall.
should
Yeah.
And there's hope that maybe, I don't know, but there's hopes that maybe the pedestrian park can be open, at least maybe when they're not doing work or, I don't know if that's the case, but there's been interest in looking into that. If anyone has any more questions, a lot's going on. I put some of the things in here. Looking at a few questions.
Select-board roundtable?
Gonna save it for tomorrow.
Okay. Lucia, do you have anything?
I think you guys already know I had a kid.
I was gonna say, how's mother?
I know.
That's my table look.
Oh, that's why
Yeah.
you're gone?
Okay, that's why I've been gone, yeah. I'm looking forward to being back in the area full-time as soon as possible.
What about sleeping? Do you miss sleeping?
I do. Thankfully we've, so our daughter's name is Felicity. She is going to be 6 weeks old on Wednesday, and she is apparently very easy as babies go. That's my understanding, which is part of why I'm able to be here, is because
I was gonna
she's,
say, and you're here.
I'm here.
Winning.
We weren't sure how that was gonna go. So, yeah, we're doing good. We're looking forward to being back. And, thank you, State of Vermont, for sending a bunch of plows down to Rhode Island where I went to avoid being snowed in and not able to get to the hospital. That was the universe was quite amused by my, and thankfully that was after we'd already, gone to the hospital, but still, it was pretty funny.
So you said the Vermont V-Trans plow was plowing your road?
Yes, so Vermont
awesome.
followed me down to Providence,
That's
basically is what happened.
We running, we
You
called,
saw V-Trans plow?
we called the governor and said, we need Larissa back.
I am thoroughly flattered. Yeah,
You think he's joking?
oh my goodness.
Anything else?
And you guys, there you were signing that, good.
Motion to adjourn.
I would so move.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Great.
All right.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, thanks for showing up.